I watched the news of this with my grandmother. We were both saddened by this ridiculous tragedy and send our sympathies to Dr. Tiller, his family and friends, his patients, and those women in need who would have been his patients. Christy on Facebook.
Words cannot express the shock and utter lack of comprehension. How anyone could justify murder as an acceptable action. My prayers go to his family. Andrea in Iowa.
Dr. Tiller was a great man, a courageous doctor. His death is tragic, but we must not let women's reproductive rights be weakened in the United States. Bennett in Texas.
Women must be able to access health care without fear of violence, harassment, or intimidation. The pro-choice movement stands for the rights of all women to make medical decisions between themselves and their doctor. Melanie from Missouri.
What a loss for women. What a loss for families. What a loss for tolerance. Norma in Ohio.
Even though Roe v. Wade is the law of the land, I have long been concerned about the safety of Dr. Tiller and the few other brave doctors who fight to protect women's life and health. Kenneth in Virginia.
We here in Kansas and Missouri are really hurting after this hideous murder, both for the family and staff of Dr. Tiller and for women around the country that no longer have a place to go in the worst of circumstances. Kristen, Facebook post.
I'm a retired OBGYN nurse. Many of the women this courageous doctor served were caught in terrible situations. In 25 years, I never met a single woman who had a late-term abortion that she did not agonize over. Jeannie in Minnesota.
Late-term abortions are not frivolous choices that women make because they want to. Women need these options for so many heart-wrenching and complex reasons. I have great respect for all those who continue in the face of resistance and violence. Jennifer in California.
30 years ago, we wore buttons and T-shirts and knocked on doors and put ourselves out there. We can do it again, and we'll do it again, to make sure a woman will always have the right to choose what is right for her and her family. Sue in Missouri.
Time passes, and sometimes people forget how far we've come. But I want you to know that I will never forget Dr. Tiller. He was, and all of you at Planned Parenthood are, so brave. Your courage and devotion to women's reproductive freedom is amazing. Tom in Florida.
I have the utmost respect for your ideals and those of Planned Parenthood. Laurel in California.
I'm proud that people like you and Dr. Tiller have stood up for women's rights. Thank you. Jen in Kansas.
I remember 1973, after Roe v. Wade was passed. I was a brand new mother of two, but I knew a girl who had died from an illegal abortion. Also, my 81-year-old grandparents told me a story about this very poor family in Arkansas when they were young in the 1930s. It was tragic. And they believed God did not want others to suffer as that family had. They prayed for a way to protect poor women and women in peril. And my grandparents? They rejoiced at the passage of Roe v. Wade. My grandma said, "I never thought I'd live to see my prayers answered." Carla in Missouri.
We have lost a warrior. Dr. Tiller was a brave man, fighting on behalf of all women, ensuring us the freedom of choice. He is a hero and will no longer stand alongside the doctors and providers who promise us women the safe medical options we need. We will not be scared. We will not back down. We will continue to make choices right for ourselves. We will keep our right to choose. Bless Dr. Tiller. Thank you for all you've done. I wish peace for his family and friends. Patty from California.
I've lived in Wichita most of my life, and I can tell you, George Tiller was a good man, a kind, caring man. Bill in Kansas.
Several years ago, I had need of Dr. Tiller's services when a much-wanted pregnancy went horribly wrong. My baby was suffering from a rare birth defect of the lungs, and it wasn't detected until late in my second trimester. The baby would not live outside of my womb. So I was desperate for help, and I sought out several specialists hoping for a miracle. I was told that there was nothing that could be done. I could either wait for nature to take its course, or I could end my pregnancy. I was referred to Dr. Tiller in Wichita because I was too far along to terminate the pregnancy in my home state. He was the most compassionate man I have ever met. He was with me the whole time, talking to me and holding my hand, and at one point I literally cried on his shoulder. No other doctor had done that for me. I will never forget his kindness to me in a time of extreme emotional suffering. I am so distraught over his brutal murder and the unfair portrayal of him in the media. Those of us who knew him know better. I encourage everyone to speak out about their experiences with Dr. Tiller. It's the least we can do for him, to honor his memory. Anonymous.
In memory of the life and service of Dr. George Tiller.